It is time to start the painting process. We waited a couple of weeks to make sure that we had some good rain come down, and we aren't going to have any more leaks coming through. And as you can see, as I walk around, we're all good here. So it's time to prime. Even though this looks all nice and smooth, all nice and shiny, if you can see, there's still some dust coming off on my hands. No good, because dust and dirt means paint is not going to adhere as well as it should. You're gonna want to sort of broom sweep your walls, get rid of dirt, dust, cobwebs, anything that may have accumulated. And then you want a very, very slightly damp rag, and you wanna just go down your walls. You wanna make sure they're clean. So that's number one. Number two is, you might think because it's a small job, let me just take a brush and let me just dip it in my primer, dip it in my paint, and paint these walls. You could get away with that, but there's a couple of things that could go wrong there. You could end up with brush strokes on your wall, which won't look good. So the more sheen that you have to your wall, the more things are emphasized. Also, now let's talk about rollers, because there's different types of rollers for different types of jobs. There are, let me bring this up. This is actually good enough for the wall that I'm doing. And you're gonna see here, and I hope it comes through the right way on video. This is a 3/8 inch nap roller. The thinner, the smaller the nap size, the smoother your wall. That's what you use it for. When you've got stucco walls, or you've got kind of texture to your walls, you want thicker nap, because it's gonna hold more paint, it's got more meat to it, and it's gonna get into the crevices to cover properly. But again, this is a fairly smooth wall. I already had this downstairs. It's a good enough roller, and we're gonna use a size like this for the walls, and we're gonna use a smaller size, one that looks like this, just for the primer areas, because I've got small little spaces to prime. I don't need a big roller, and then I can wash it, store it again for another time, and then I'm gonna use the roller because I'm gonna roll the entire wall. I don't have confidence that if I just roll over the primer in the spots that I did, that the paint is gonna look even across the entire wall. So I'm repainting the entire wall. Oh, did I forget to tell you? Always cover the floor. And you know what? I'm actually gonna do this with the brush. I'm gonna be a little bit of a hack because there's not much down here that I have to worry about rolling. And no one is ever gonna be down on the floor like I am to go, wait a minute, you used a brush. I could tell. Again, tip of the brush. That's it. Light strokes. Ta-da! I'm doing cuts, which is when the ceiling and the wall meet, and I'm painting right where that seam happens. That's called cutting in. You'll see I use painter's tape because I'm not perfect, and I just want to make sure that I don't get paint on the areas where I don't want it. I've shaken the primer, and I'm going to dip my brush in very lightly. You only want paint on the tip. You don't want to go dipping the brush completely in, and you want to just, and you're doing this because your roller is never going to get up to the edge. And here's like a secret on how to get the primer all the way against the edge without also getting it on the ceiling. You get your little angled brush close to the edge, and you give the brush a sort of shake like this. And that's how you get the paint only where you want it and all the way up to the edge. Again, I'm only using the brush to get to the top where the roller is not going to reach, because if I went all the way to the top, guess what? The paint that's on the roller is going to hit the ceiling as well. And we don't want that. Now I'm going to actually get around here as well. This is going to be covered by the bell box anyway, but still, let's get it done. Okay, I'm not going to bore you. I have to go around a couple more edges and the edges on the bottom, and then I'll be ready to roll. A little tip about how you're going to actually roll. So I'm using the small, remember I'm using this small brush. And so Home Depot, Lowe's sells these little pans, but I am a recycler. I like to use things over and over and over again. It's good for the environment. It saves me money. And so here's a little tip. I had used it before when I was painting my basement, and yes, my basement is purple. But I'm gonna turn it inside out, even though it really doesn't make a difference. But turn it inside out. It's just a regular bag. Put the bag over the tray, knot it. You're going to pour your primer in here. You're going to roll in here. You're going to roll onto the wall. And then when you're done, you can just take this and toss. We have our pan set up. And we've got our recycle program set up over here. We're just gonna pour a little bit in here. I don't need much. You can see how nice and thick it is. That is why John and I like to use this. You can actually clean this up. You can just roll to prevent any more spillage from happening. That way you can leave it on the table, like I'm going to leave it on the table. And again, this is more than enough. Hopefully you can see in the pan here. This is more than enough that we're going to use. You're gonna roll. You're gonna make sure that you just get it nice and even on the brush itself. You don't want too much. You don't want too little. You want just enough. And I'm gonna start rolling. So let me turn this around so that I can make sure that you can see just for an example of what I'm going to be rolling here. We'll just do this part of the wall right here. And it's as simple as rolling up and down. I don't think you need to watch me doing it for all of the areas. You get the point. And so what happens here is as you're rolling it, you just want to make sure that you have nice, even brush strokes. You cover all of your plastering, your compounding, all of the work that you did in nice, even brush strokes, and you move on to all the pieces that you need to do. I'm gonna finish this up and meet you back again when we're ready to paint.